Hi everyone, it is time for Monday night's Happy Hustle Show. So I will just give people a minute to jump on a little bit earlier than normal tonight. If you're watching this on replay, please comment #replay just so I know that somebody else is tuned in. If you've got any questions, even if you're watching it later, just drop them in the comments and I will answer them for you. So, hi Liz. Oh, thanks for coming to join me, Liz. I know this is a bit of a random time. I'm normally a little bit later, but I have a call this evening, so I didn't want to miss doing this. So today I want to talk about why I cried today. It's been emotional. It's actually been, oh, hi Sandra, hi Lee. Oh, thanks for coming, everybody. Yeah, so it's been an emotional week for me, like as in the last 7 days, not as in today. And the hi Tracy. Oh, and the reason for that is that I have 2 teenage boys who were both due to be sitting exams in May, and obviously, like the rest of the country, they weren't able to sit exams. And what happened then in Scotland, I'm not sure if anybody who's tuned in is Scottish, so this will probably have gone right over your head, but it's probably just about to hit England, Wales and Northern Ireland. So you will see this all over the news. So what happened in Scotland is our results were due out on Tuesday of last week. And what they had done was they communicated that they had asked teachers just to give predicted grades, so on their professional judgment, to look at the prelim scores, but also more than that, the portfolio of work that had been done, the homework, the classwork, etc. And although we didn't know what those scores were, we did have a school report from before lockdown, so before any of this, anyone knew what was going to happen, saying this is the prelim score and this is the projected grade. So this is what we think your child is likely to get in the exams. So because of that, I assumed that when the results came in, that my children would automatically get at least the prelim score. And I was hoping that in some cases they would have been awarded the predicted grade because they didn't get a chance to sit the exam. And if the teacher, just before lockdown, which was when the reports came out really, thought that that's the grade they were going to get, then how could anyone really go, well, no, we're going to give you lower than that because we've changed our mind? But of course, the challenge with this is the teachers had no idea this was coming, and some of the teachers are, mark maybe a little bit easier than others. And, some teachers use it as a motivation. Some teachers use it to scare kids. And I get it. Like, I totally get that it's not consistent and not completely reliable, but there was no other system. Anyway, what happened, and what I think the same thing has happened in England and Wales and Northern Ireland, the scores just haven't been released yet. What happened was that teachers put in all of those grades for the kids. And then the SQA asked, so the examining body up here, asked the teachers to rate the children in the classes from 1 to, 30 or however many kids were in the class, as well as the grades. So the teachers said, this child, I think, deserves this grade, and here is their ranking in the class from 1 to 30, for example. And then what the SQA did, and they didn't tell anybody they were going to do this in advance, is the SQA went, right, okay, so these teachers have been overly generous in their opinion. So the SQA decided that they would look at the average attainment of the school, the one specific school that your children go to, so not generally, the one specific school, and they would look at over the last 3 years in each subject how many children achieved an A, a B, a C, etc. And what they did was then they said, so for example, if in business, my youngest son was sitting business management, National 5, which is sort of like an O-level equivalent. It's not quite, but it's similar. So so what happened there was that the National 5 business teacher put forward X number of children for A's, including my son, because my son has always got an A in his prelim, he's got an A in all of his coursework, etc. But the SQA looked at that and they said, well, no, because over the last 3 years, only, I don't know what the exact numbers are, but say maybe only one child in the class got an A and the majority of children got B's and C's and whatever. So although the business manager teacher said that my son should get an A, the SQA downgraded him. So, and it, you know, a B is not a bad mark. I'm not saying it is, it's terrible. And if he'd sat the exam, then I wouldn't have been any the wiser. I would have just gone, oh, I must have sort of messed up the exam a little bit, and I wouldn't have been any the wiser. But I know what the teacher had put down to give him. So when his results came in, they weren't bad at all. He passed everything, but they were, Liz, there might, well, hold on. There's a bit more to tell you, Liz. So, because if any of you have teenagers, this is coming in England and Scotland and Wales. Exactly the same thing's going to happen as far as I can see, unless the devolved nations and Westminster see what's happened in Scotland and change the process. But I think, as far as I know, the English, Scottish and Northern Irish results are due out either this week or next week. So there's not much of a window. Anyway, so one of my sons he did well, but he didn't do quite as well as he'd anticipated. And my other son did well also, and actually things worked out quite well for him because he was doing a foundation apprenticeship and in IT, and it should have taken 2 years, but they can't do the work experience part. Bit of a long story, but they've awarded him that after 1 year, which was phenomenal. So actually, you know, it wasn't all bad, but there was just a little, it just took away from the joy of how the exam results should have otherwise been, knowing that the reason that between my boys, they had 3 scores lowered from what the teachers had told us. And I know that because I spoke to the head teacher and he told me. So it sort of took the shine off it a little bit, because you're like, well, those scores are really good. But you had those scores lowered because the people that are 1, 2, and 3 years older than you performed in a particular way. And that means that statistically, there's no chance that you could have done any better than that. Now, of course, that isn't the situation. And to be fair to the Scottish Government, when these came out last week, I mean, immediately these concerns were raised, because what happened was they downgraded 25% of marks. So this was not a small amount of children, 25% of marks. And where it hit most were in the schools in the poorer areas, because they were using the statistics from the last however many years, the last 3 years. They would go, okay, so the top school in Scotland, when you look at the league tables, is a school called Jordan Hill, I think it's called. It's in Glasgow. I'm not familiar with it, but I see it on the tables. And in Jordan Hill, they would expect 92% of children to get 5 national 5s at A grade, for example. But if you take a school local to me, like Newbattle High School, which is maybe about 10 miles from here, and it's just in a slightly less affluent area, it's something like, right, I'm making up these numbers, maybe like 20% of kids got 5 national 5s there. So what happened was, if when the teachers looked at the kids' work and put it forward, if you were in Jordan Hill, the likelihood of your mark getting downgraded was much less than if you were in Newbattle High, which is so massively unfair. It's incredible. And to be fair to the Scottish Government, they are all about the attainment gap and making sure that things are fair. But the way they explained it last Tuesday when this all came out, and there'd been no pre-warning of it that anyone was going to get downgraded, because all these kids had assumed if they'd passed their prelim or they got a grade in their prelim, that's what they were going to get. So hi Gillian, I'm in the middle of the rant about the exams, which you'll be very familiar with. So, so what happened was last week, the government spent a lot. So we have press conferences up here every day, and our First Minister stood up and spoke very eloquently about the difficulties. And what they said was, yes, we have downgraded. And the reason that we've downgraded 25% of kids is to keep the exam system, to make it still credible. Because if we suddenly said, right, all the pass marks are all up 25%, then they rightly said the journalists would be then going, well, how is that credible if you're just letting teachers say whatever they want? So it wasn't easy, and there was no win-win answer to it. But what their approach was, right, okay, so the grades will go down 25%, but we will have an appeal system. And where there is evidence that a child should have had a higher grade, then we will award that higher grade. So there's going to be an appeal system. Now that all seemed fair, not fair. It seemed like probably the best solution to me last week. Then what happened was they worked out that there would be 120,000 appeals. And they promised they would do them all within a month. So they set this goal of the 4th of September for all the appeals to have been conducted and the grades to be reissued by the 4th of September, right? Because obviously there's kids waiting for uni places, and honestly, I'm talking about my own kids because obviously that's my personal experience, but I know so many other mums where their kids are in 6th year. My eldest still has 1 year left at school, but where kids are leaving school, like my neighbour's son was projected to get 2 A's and a B, and he ended up getting, I think it was a B, a C, and a D or something, which is just, and it doesn't get him into uni. So that's massive. That's absolutely massive. And the problem is that he had no idea because the SQA didn't say in advance they were going to do that. So it just started trickling out on Tuesday morning when people started getting their results. They were like, oh, these are lower, and then all of a sudden they realized that a lot of the results were lower. Anyway, the journalists were all over the government in the press briefings last week, and the kids themselves went out and protest at the weekend and on Friday, and they protested outside the SQA, which is quite near where I live. And there were lots of pictures of kids there with plaques saying, how can I fail an exam I didn't sit? And, that's so emotive because this is their lives that they're talking about. And the failures were based on performance of peers. And, there's so many reasons why each year is different and each child is different. Anyway, these 100, I will get on to the point in a minute. Hi, Sarah Louise. Hi, Angela. These 120,000 appeals, because what child isn't going to appeal? They made the appeal process free, and they sent every school a list of all of the children that had been downgraded. So every school then, as quickly as possible, because this is all obviously taking place in the space of less than a week, went out to the parents. So the process was the parents had to sign to appeal, the child had to sign to appeal, because the grade could go down as well as up, although realistically that's pretty unlikely. And the teacher had to authorize it. So the teacher had to have the correct evidence to, and then that was going to be submitted to the SQA. And then the SQA were going to review it. And how were they going to review it? Because they're not teachers. Well, they're not all teachers. So they were going to enlist teachers to review these 120,000 appeals of the grades that teachers had made right at the time when school starts back. So our schools started back, some of them, the teachers went back today, some of the schools go back today, some of them go back tomorrow. They're all back full-time by next Monday at the very latest. So all of a sudden, teachers who are going back to school and trying to cope with first of all, the drama of the exams, but then all of the kind of new, social distancing between teachers and children and, getting their head around everything. All of a sudden, we're going to be remarking all these appeals of teachers that had already done it. So it was just such a mess, but it's the same mess, as I say, that's going to hit the rest of the UK unless they've got a radically different system, but I don't think they have. Anyway, I just found it really upsetting last week. And the more I heard about kids that had been downgraded, so they'd been expecting something and they'd been downgraded, and no one had been up. Well, maybe someone had been upgraded, but I certainly didn't hear any stories. There was, of course, that doesn't make the news, but the SQA said basically the majority of the grade adjustments had been down. Anyway, the reason that I'm telling you this, and the reason this is relevant for Side Hustle, is today, Nicola Sturgeon, the First Minister of Scotland, stood up at the press conference and she said, I have been thinking, and we have been talking as a government about what happened last week and about how so many children didn't receive the mark that they expected to receive, and that the teacher had said and it wasn't just the teacher. So the process was the teacher determined the mark with a body of evidence, and 95% down, 5 up. Yeah, I think that's right, Gillian. So they had presented a body of evidence to justify the grade. So it wasn't just the teacher going, yeah, I'll give them an A and whatever. Then the principal teacher had checked that. And then the head teacher and the deputy head had checked that before they submitted it. So there is an internal, I mean, it's not perfect, but it isn't as straightforward as some teachers just kind of made up grades, or some teachers are really easy, or whatever. It was all internally checked. Anyway, hi, Margaret. I'm on a rant about exams. Anyway, the reason that I'm telling you this is that Nicola Sturgeon stood up today and she said, I've been thinking about this over the weekend and we've been talking about it, and we got it wrong. We got it wrong for kids. And she said, and to be fair, the Scottish Government have always been really focused on the attainment gap. There's been lots of funding and support and initiatives around bringing the kids who come from kind of the least affluent backgrounds and trying to give them, as much support in the education system as possible. Margaret, yeah. Well, you can give us your tough and circ on this. So Nicola Sturgeon said, I've been specifically thinking about those children where we say to them, work hard and you can achieve whatever you want. You can be whatever you want, work hard, get the grades, and it opens up opportunities. And so many of those children, because they were in schools that had a poor previous performance, didn't get the grades that they had expected. Now, I guess through the appeals process, they probably would have got them. It's really difficult to see how remarking 120,000 portfolios was going to result in anything other than all the kids going back to the original grade, because otherwise it's an inter-teacher fight, isn't it? Because the teachers went, this is what this child should get. The principal teacher agreed it, the head teacher agreed it, and then another teacher to come along and go, no, that's completely wrong. Like, I can't even really see how that would work. Anyway, Nicola Sturgeon stood up and she said, we got it wrong. We're going to fix it. We're going to fix it for you. We're not going to have an appeals process, or she didn't quite say this because it's all being properly announced tomorrow. But she said, last week we said we were going to put the onus on kids to appeal grades where they haven't got the grade they expected or whether the school put them forward for. We're not going to do that now. What we're going to do is we're going to fix it. We messed this up and we're going to fix it for you. And we're going to announce tomorrow exactly the process for doing that, but we're going to fix it for you quickly. So I don't know what they're going to say tomorrow, but I can only assume they're going to go, we're just going to give you the grades that the teacher said. I can't really see, there might be some spot checks or whatever. I can't really see how they're going to say anything else, which is going to mean that there are more people getting A's and more people getting B's than ever before. But last week, the questions were around, well, we have to compare this to an average year, otherwise it makes the results not credible. And I'm sitting going, an average year? These kids are in a global pandemic. These kids are like isolated from their friends and trying to learn through distance learning that teachers are just getting their heads around. And, it's horrific for teachers. It's horrific for kids. It's horrific for all of us. So to stand there and go, no, because in the last 3 years when life was normal, the average mark was this. See if the teachers have been a wee bit generous this year. Well, good on them, because those kids have had it rough, absolutely rough. So to say that a teacher's professional judgment, I saw a brilliant post over the weekend actually, where, so basically they were saying these teachers have made 25% in not professional judgments. So they've made 25% of their judgments have been incorrect. So we're just going to go in and correct them. And I saw a great comparison to, doctor's diagnosis. So, your GP or your hospital doctor has diagnosed X number of people with this terminal illness, but that can't be right because that didn't happen over the last 3 years. So we're just going to tell those GPs that 25% of those diagnoses are wrong. And it's exactly the same thing. Teachers are professionals, doctors are professionals. Everybody is just doing the job that they were born to do. Hopefully they've chosen a career that they love. And certainly with teachers, it kind of has to be that, because it's pretty thankless being a teacher, as far as I can see, apart from the joy of actually seeing the children developing. But in terms of the support from the government, the backlash from the parents, and all of everything that's going on in COVID around get teachers back to work, like, as far as I could see, teachers were working blooming hard during. None of the teachers I knew were sitting with their feet up during lockdown. Anyway, so the reason that I started to tell you that is, yeah, exactly. But Liz, what was really incredible was to see a politician. Now, so because I'm from Belfast, I have been it's been absolutely drilled into me never to talk about politics. So I just want to make it clear that today I'm not talking about Nicola Sturgeon as a politician, because I won't share my politics with anybody, but I want to talk about Nicola Sturgeon as a leader, because that's different. And what she was talking about is the other devolved governments, and they're all led by people from different parties, so there's one that's Conservative, there's one that's Labour, there's one that's, I don't remember what's Ireland, DUP or whatever. So they're just leaders at the moment. They're not politicians. We don't need them to be politicians in the middle of a crisis. As a leader, for her to stand up there, I'm probably going to get emotional again, and say, we got it wrong and we're going to fix it for you. Like, I went through to tell my husband, and he thought something terrible had happened because I couldn't stop crying. It was the most powerful thing I have seen happen in politics. And honestly, I'm getting upset. To have that authenticity, to be able to stand up and go, do you know what? I'm human and we're giving this a go here. And last week we thought we did do the right thing. We didn't purposefully try and do something wrong. But with hindsight, looking at it now and taking into account the voice of the young people, which is incredible to hear somebody saying, we have listened to you as you've protested. There was a massive petition going around Scotland on Facebook that had an incredible number of signatures. Last week, it didn't occur to me. I just thought, well, that's it. She actually said today, I don't want to be a leader that digs their heels in and goes, yeah, okay, well, even though I probably think I've made a mistake, I'm standing by it. I'm just gonna keep going with it. And we'll keep rolling out the same lines, and eventually the news will move on and it'll be forgotten. She said, I could have done that, but it's not the right thing to do. I want it, and it was admitting she was wrong was the strongest thing I have ever seen in terms of a politician. And I would love to see every politician doing that, every leader behaving like that, because it's just, she doesn't get it right all the time, but you can really tell that she's just I think, a thoroughly decent human being. That'll be a really divisive thing to say in Scotland, because people have very different opinions of Nicola Sturgeon. But as I say, I'm not talking about her as a politician, as a leader, and as somebody that is basically, I'm assuming, and I might be wrong, and there might be a wee bit more to it, but I'm assuming tomorrow the Deputy First Minister, who's the Minister for Education up here, is going to stand up in Parliament and say that my kids have had their exam grades upgraded, as will Gillian's kids as well. And I don't know if any of the rest of you, I don't think any of the rest of you have teenagers in Scotland. But I cannot tell you how emotional that makes me, because now my kids are going to get the grades they deserve without the fight. And I think they were probably going to get them anyway. I'm assuming over the weekend she's going, well, hold on a minute. What's the point in going through 120,000 appeals to just give them all the grades anyway? We're probably, do you know what's cheaper? The thing that's cheaper is just to go, let's just give them what the teacher said in the first place. Give me 1 second, because I think that's my son's friend at the door to call him for rugby, and I think my son's got his headphones on, so just give me a minute. Be right back. Ben! That's Andrew! Hello. Right, I'm back. Rugby starts back. We're back into the timetable again, where everything just becomes a bit more complicated. Right, let me just see what is going on in the comments, because that was a total rant. But a rant in a good way, because I feel really emotional, but in such a positive way. Yeah, so let's see, Margaret, and your teacher. You've been jumping through hoops trying to reduce the attainment gap so it stands to rights. Children from the most disadvantaged backgrounds should be doing better. Yeah, exactly. And do you know what's going on in my kids' school? And again, this is just bringing it back to my wee world. And I know it's much bigger than this, but in my kids' school, the head teacher there had been ill for a couple of years. So really, there was no leadership for a couple of years, and it was nobody's fault. He ended up with a severe illness, and there wasn't anyone. The deputy head was trying to replace him, and then he got headhunted by somebody else. So it was just a series of events, but there was no leadership. There was absolutely no leadership for a couple of years. But then at the beginning of this year, we got a new head teacher who's amazing, like absolutely amazing, and full of life and full of ideas. And he will have made a massive difference to the school this year. But again, from his point of view, that wasn't going to count. Like, they were going to go, no, but for the last 3 years, the school's been like this, and the performance has been going down. But you're right, Margaret, and that wouldn't be taken into account. Like, my kids' school should be doing better as well. Oh, thanks, Liz. Margaret Ann, yeah, you can't really. Her saying that could change my son's life depending on tomorrow. Yeah, I know. Juliana, I can't see how they're going to not say that tomorrow. And I watched right to the very end of the press conference and every journalist question today, and she kept saying, I can't tell you anymore, I can't tell you anymore, but I can tell you that we're going to fix it. We're going to fix it for those young people. So I can't see how else they're going to fix it other than take the teacher's judgments in the first place. And she said something about, we just have to acknowledge that the exam results will be higher this year. But that's better than kids not getting the grades that they need to get and that they deserve to get as well. So what's going to be interesting now is how this all pans out in the rest of the UK, because as far as I can see, they're doing the same system. And it was only a couple of days ago, wasn't it, that Boris actually said in England that they were going to allow appeals, because they weren't going to allow appeals. And I think they'll have obviously been watching the Scottish system very carefully. So now they've said they're going to allow appeals, but there's just something there around managing expectations, if you know any teenagers in the UK, because it just didn't occur to any of these Scottish teenagers that they would have got less than their prelim result. Like, that just didn't. Anyway, the point here, next year will be very interesting. Yeah, I hope Boris, do you know what, Liz? I think if Boris followed suit, it would be incredible for his profile and his leadership and his... Yeah, I really hope he does. I don't know if he will. I hope he does. I really hope all of the, and I don't know So I don't really know about the leaders of the other two devolved nations and how they're getting on. Well, I've still got family in Northern Ireland. Let's say my family quite often message me and go, "Can we not have Nicola?" So I think, yeah, she's not perfect at all, but it made me think. So let me pull this back to side hustle. Why I've come on to have a rant is it made me think, when you mess up as a small business owner, it's really important to just go, do you know what? I didn't get that right, and I'm going to fix it. So, taking this down into kind of the minuscule of what could, or like what I would do in my side hustle, not often, but on a number of occasions, I have personalized something like with the wrong name, or just misspelt the name, or just looked at it and thought, oh, that's spelt like that, and it wasn't, and I just haven't. Not great at detail, which isn't ideal when you're personalizing things. Anyway, I need to work on that. But so I have sent things out that have been incorrect to customers. And when the customer comes back to me to say, you sent this out and, I asked for this, and they'll send me a screenshot and go, listen, I'll show you how I asked for this, because this is what I got as my order receipt, but this is a picture of what you sent. And I will immediately go, oh my goodness, I am so sorry. I cannot believe I did that. I feel rotten, because that's your child's name. And that's horrible for someone to send you something that has your child's name misspelt or whatever on it. So I'll go out of my way to redo it, and to maybe send them, one of my little cards with flowers with it, or, just a card by way of apology. And see, with that attitude in your side hustle, you don't ever get into debates with customers. And again, on forums, I'll see other side hustle owners saying things like, well, my customer's claiming that their item didn't arrive, but I think that's very unlikely, and I've asked them to wait another 28 days because that's how long it is before I can claim it back from Royal Mail. And I just watch people saying things like this, and I think, really, are a lot of people going around claiming something didn't arrive when it did and totally trying to steal from you? It's certainly not my experience, and it's not the customers that I attract. And see, even if they are, it's easier just to send out the replacement there and then, make the customer happy, and then just forget about it. Just take the hit from time to time. And then, if customers do something wrong, so all I mean by that is, so say somebody asks me for something and they have misspelt a word, or they have, I don't know, asked me for a date and then later found out it was a different date, and they message me and they say, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm going to need to buy another one because I've got part of the date wrong or whatever. I'm like, I'll just replace it for you, because that's no use to you with the wrong date on it. I'll just replace it for you. And customers are so super grateful, and it just creates this lovely energy around your side hustle. So being able to just put your hands up, admit when you're wrong, and do your best to fix it, and appreciate that you're only human, and those people are only human, and life is not about people out there trying to trick each other and trying to commit fraud and trying to steal things from you. That's not my experience of the world. And when you have that sort of stuff in your head, it just impacts your customer service significantly, to the point where you're not attracting the right people. If you start focusing on, and actually, yeah, Margaret, and it was you today, wasn't it, that put the post in the free group about the woman blocking you on Instagram? Wasn't that? Tell me in the comments, Margaret. And wasn't that you? The woman that does stationery, including wedding stationery, because I read that just before I came on. I'm sure it was you. I think that's another example of, so the woman that you're talking about, I don't know who that is, obviously, but whoever you're talking about, that's coming from a really fear-based, yeah. So Margaret, and that woman's coming from a fear-based, so what if someone looks at my photos and copies them and rips them off and then becomes so much more successful than me? That's all fear-based. And actually, you can't, as you say, you can't block people anyway, because you can just look at them on your personal Instagram. But it's the same as people that watermark photos and go, well, what if people steal my photos? Well, do you know what? Let's not engage in those thoughts. Let's engage in the, what if I have the most incredible photo and everybody wants to share that photo, and maybe other people look at that and they become inspired by my work. I'm still the original. I'm still the person that's marketing and putting it out there. And there's plenty of business out there for everybody. And the more we can control and kind of feel abundant in the world, in life, in our side hustle, the more then those vibes go out, and those are the sort of people that we interact with, and those are the sort of people we attract. And if I was buying stationery from someone who was that sort of, in fact, the other thing is that someone who's doing that is spending a lot of their time then very closely watching to make sure that no one is stealing and no one is, and it's such a negative mindset. Whereas if you just get on with it and just market and create things that you think people will love, you're so much more likely to just attract the right people and sell it. Yeah, totally her problem, Margaret Ann. Absolutely her problem. And that would totally put me off buying from a business if I thought people were going around trying to block other people and just being really precious about it. Yeah, there's people in that hand stamping world. There's a lot of people that try and copyright phrases just generally in personalized goods that they haven't come up with. So somebody else is, maybe it's something that a lot of people, you'd be delighted if someone copied you. I know, well, that, you know, what is it? Imitation is a form of flattery, isn't it? But so say somebody has produced a piece of jewelry and it's got a phrase on it. There are people out there that then can see that's popular and they take the phrase and they go and try and trademark that for themselves and then go out to business and go, you cannot use that anymore, only I can use that. Those businesses will never succeed. So I'm not talking about Disney and whatever that come up with their own stuff, but where they're looking at something somebody else does and then trying to go, well, I'll block them from selling it and then I'll be the only person that makes it. My business will be successful. It won't, because that's not how the universe works. When you are like, being horrible, then no, it's just a horrible energy around your business and you won't attract anyone. When you're lovely and kind and just generous with things, then that's what you will attract back. Those are the sorts of people you will attract to buy your product or your service, and that's exactly who you want to work with. It's just trust people. You know, just don't be the person that Margaret Ann's talking about. Don't be that person. Just trust people, and you know, like, what's the worst that can happen? They make something that's a bit like you. How many people are there in the world? Like, they're not stealing the only 4 people that are going to buy your thing. There's still, you're just going to market in a different way. Remember, when you're creating something handmade, it's about you. It's about you in it. It's about the love that you put into it, and that's the vibration, and that's what you're buying. And I don't want to buy from people who block other people and spend a lot of time trying to, I don't know, be negative about things. I don't want to buy from any of those handmade people. And where I see people, so if I follow somebody's Facebook page and somebody puts something on, and sometimes you'll see people like screenshotting messages that customers have sent and put on, look at this, I got a horrible comment today or whatever. I'm like, I don't want anything to do with you, because that's just, you are totally lowering yourself to, whether that customer was being unreasonable or not, sharing their comment and on your page publicly. Oh, it just really makes my skin crawl. So don't do it. Oh, thanks, Margaret Ann. I love you too. Liz, my sister is creating head scarves and selling them through a curly hair group on Facebook. Someone saw what she was doing, bought the exact same fabrics and then undercut her in the same group. Sometimes what happens in a group like that, Liz, is that people get, so what sometimes, how I would liken that then is, through the day. So my day job is sort of used to be delivering face-to-face training. It's kind of not anymore. Most of it's gone virtual, but sometimes I'll get a difficult delegate on a training course, and they'll be difficult for 100 million reasons, probably none of them connected to me. So it could be that they've been sent on the training course. That's quite a common one. They didn't think they needed to go there in the first place. It could be that they're just having a rotten time in their life out with the training. It could be that they've had a bad experience in public transport on the way there, whatever. Sometimes you just have people that are difficult. And what tends to happen on a course is that if somebody starts to be mean to me, so if I've built a bit of a rapport with the people in the course and somebody starts to be mean to me, before I can even answer, the other people in the course are like, hey, don't you speak to Julie like that? And they kind of pack mentality nearly sort out the mean person. So I've seen that happen in Facebook groups as well, Liz, where if your sister's known as the person in that Facebook group or known as the person to do that first, and then somebody comes in and does exactly the same thing, you can get the other members of the Facebook group going, is that not exactly the same as Liz? So sometimes that'll sort itself out without your sister even needing to do anything. But yeah, and then undercutting. So there's been quite a few conversations about pricing across the mastermind group and the free group over the last couple of weeks. And yeah, if someone's undercutting your sister, they're not in it for the long term anyway, Liz. If you're trying to compete on cheapness, most people aren't even covering their costs. Most people has no idea that their costs are not just the materials. Most people have no idea that their costs are the light they need above the table and the website that they need and the Etsy fees and the insurance that they need, and and their time. Most people are not taking into account any of that. And when they don't, they're not going to last, because after a year they go, oh my goodness, that's amazing, I've made 1,000 sales this year, and they look and they've still got nothing in their bank account. Like, it's just bad. It's hobbyists selling things and justifying it in the fact that they love making it. Well, if you love making it, just keep it. And if you want to sell it, actually work on business principles. But I just wouldn't engage with those sorts of people. But I get that that's frustrating, Liz. There are loads of people making crochet face pads, and that's my thing. I'm still in the process. There are, Claire, but there are loads of people making crochet face pads because loads of people want crochet face pads. So again, I probably talked about this during the 5-day challenge, but when I started making keepsakes, so if you remember, my first sort of proper side hustle after the gloves one was making plaques that said, for trees, saying planted to celebrate the christening of, this particular baby and the date and whatever. And no one else was selling those. But the reason that no one else was selling those is that not many people wanted them. Like, come on, this is an amazing idea. They're like, yeah. Do you not have any like really traditional? So I would say where there is a big market, I would take that as a great sign, Claire. I wouldn't let it bother you. And I certainly would not compete on cheapness. Do you know what I'd be tempted to do if I were you, Claire? I would be tempted to look at the average price. So say the average price is, I don't know, £7 or something. I'd be tempted to make mine £19.95 just to stand out. Maybe people go, well, hold on a minute. When I was down in, this is so much longer than it's meant to be. I'm just enjoying hanging about with you. You'd forgotten about my gloves, my gran. Hey, do you know that could come back again? Maybe fingerless gloves with your boyfriend's name on them will be back in again, and anyone's welcome to that idea. I'm not precious on it. When I went down Dalton Towers last week, I told you about, and then on the way back, we stopped at Cheshire Oaks Outlet Village because we were down that far, and it was just a brief trip. We had lunch and we kind of had a walk around, and I went into the mulberry shop, and I've always fancied a mulberry bag, but they're ridiculous. And I thought, well, maybe in the outlet shop they'll not be as ridiculous. But they were. It was like, I was looking at one and it was small, and I thought, oh, I quite like the bigger version of that. And the small one in the outlet shop was like, was it £760? Like, I don't even know what the big one was. Like, that is ridiculous. But see if that Mulberry bag was £50 and they sold it in Next, it wouldn't, no one would really, well, not no one would want it, but it wouldn't have the same, you know, aspiration. And there's probably nothing that different about the Mulberry bag over the bag they sell in Next. There probably isn't a massive difference. It's just on the price and the marketing that can go with that when you get that price. So yeah, Claire, why not? Why not? But all I'm saying is, so you don't have to be ridiculous, but I would always go the upper end. And the reason I would always go the upper end is because of the price kind of bracket, is because you do have Etsy fees, and you know, if you have a website, you do have kind of monthly fees for a website. And I love being able to say, here's mates rates to, you know, so if my cousin asks me to buy something, I go, listen, here's a wee code and you can get 20% off. But I can't do that if I've kind of priced really tightly. So I would always give, and then Etsy quite regularly, I don't think we've had any actually in the last couple of months, but Etsy quite regularly has sales, and it'll definitely have one around Thanksgiving, because Etsy is very predominantly for the American market. So they have like a big sort of Black Friday, but I think last year they did it over, it was certainly a week, it might have been 10 days. But to participate in the Etsy sales, you have to give a certain amount off. And I think last year it was 20%. But when you participate in Etsy sales, they will really promote your product. So it's just really worthwhile pricing to be able to incorporate all of that. Fingerless gloves are no good in these times. Oh no, I can see Angela. Yeah, see, once you have clicked on StreamYard, then I think that's you for life. So I can see that it's you, Angela. Fingerless gloves are no good. Yeah, of course, yes, fingerless gloves. Those are total COVID spreading machines, aren't they? Lace fingerless gloves for style. Yeah, exactly. And Debbie, you never play the cheapest version of anything. Do you know, that is so right. I was looking at courses around, there's some things I want to work on in terms of personal development around manifesting and vibrations and stuff. I want to get, so it's the sort of stuff I love, but I want to really get my head around it, because I want to offer some of that within some like meditations and that and stuff in the mastermind group. And I was looking at courses to just try and get a little bit of structure, and some of the courses were like, I don't know, £50. I'm going, well, that's going to be rubbish. Like, it might not have been, but look, there's one that's 200. That'll be better. And I think a lot, I mean, because I was going to say, I think customers genuinely think like that when they go, oh look, there's the crochet face pad, one of them is 99p. Well, that's something you would get in the pound shop and that'll fall apart, and that one's £20. Well, that's probably the sort of one that you so, and at the very least, do the cinema model where you get, you know, small, medium and large, but like the large is only 50p more than the medium. So then in the cinema you go, oh, I'll just have the large, and you end up with this massive Diet Coke or whatever that's this size walking through, because it was only 50p more than the medium, which was like £2 more than the small. So why would you buy the small? Hi Joe, you've missed a massive rant, and I don't even know how long I've been live for. I don't think I can see, but certainly I did promise I would keep these to 15 minutes. It's not been 15 minutes. But I'm very happy to get it off my chest. Thank you for sticking with me. Thank you for listening to me. And the thing is, you have a saying, buying cheap is expensive. Yeah, because you have to buy it twice. You buy cheap, buy it twice is another one, Debbie. Yeah. So the upshot of this is, if you do something wrong as a side hustler or a small business owner, then first of all, go above and beyond to sort it out. So go, like, surprise your customer by saying, do you know what? Yeah, I did get that wrong. Like, don't be trying to be professional and just go, oh my goodness, I can't believe I got that wrong. I'm so sorry. Like, that is not what your customers expect. They expect to be dealing with a big organization like Amazon who go, well, here's the return label and you pay for it, whatever. Just be honest, be human, and fix things when you get them wrong. And see, when you do that, then you won't worry about getting things wrong, because it doesn't turn into a battle. It doesn't turn into anything negative, and people aren't angry. I've never had anyone angry at me. I've had people message me going, I said this, and they'll start off with, I gave you this, and you left out a letter in it. But as soon as I go back and go, hey, I'm so sorry, I can't believe I did that. I feel rotten. I'm so sorry. Let me tell you how I'm going to fix it. No one has ever remained angry. And that's what I experienced today watching the First Minister of Scotland. And I'm not going to keep talking about it because I've done it to death, but it still even makes me emotional to say it out loud. Our leader admitted she was wrong and said she was going to fix it. It absolutely restores my faith in the leadership of the UK. And my hope for England, Scotland, and Northern Ireland is that your leaders are watching closely to what has happened here today, and they fix the exam result situation that is about to drop before it even happens, and before the kids start having the anxiety and the disappointment and the stress of not getting the results they need because of an algorithm, because of a statistical model. Right, cathartic. Thank you. Has it been 50 minutes, Liz? So sorry. Thank you. Thank you for sticking with me, everybody. Angela, the way you handle a complaint can really enhance your brand or destroy it. Absolutely. And you will get complaints. Do not worry. Do not worry. As long as you handle them like a human being, you're right. They can make you much. So let's just, no. I'll go. Let me just quickly leave you with a very quick analogy. Nicola Sturgeon last week announced something, over the weekend, thought about it, decided, and not just Nicola, of course, the whole government, but obviously she's the spokesperson, decided they got it wrong, came on the telly today and said, we got it wrong and we're going to fix it. Dominic Cumming drove to Barnard Castle to test his eyesight, never admitted that he'd done anything wrong. And look what it did to the reputation of him, the government, and not political, just as a leader, my observation would be make the correct choice. Okay, I'm going to go and get your dinner, everybody. Ridiculous that I've come on at this time and kept you for this long. But thank you so much. And I will be back on Thursday night for the Happy Hustle show. And masterminders, let me know if you want to hang out on Thursday night after that, or if, because we're in implementation week, you want a break from me, because I'll totally understand. So either way, I will see you on Thursday for the Happy Hustle show. Right, take care, everybody. Bye.